sections of the freeway are pretty heavy here. This all started near the 110 freeway in Adams. He made his way all the way along Telegraph, out here, back on the freeway, up and down the 710, onto the 5, and now onto the 605, where he is now northbound, getting off the 605 freeway, now onto Whittier Boulevard, back on surface streets. This is a stolen work truck. It is a flatbed with something on the back there. There is also some damage to this vehicle. The right rear tire is actually out of air, and on top of it, he's actually traveling at a pretty good clip considering he is out of that right tire, but LAPD still getting off the freeway with him here. He's now in oncoming lanes of traffic. There have been several points during this pursuit where he has been going the wrong way. LAPD now trying to get this guy off the road. We'll see if it ends here on surface streets or what he decides to do, but now they've got more surface street traffic to contend with as they try and catch up with this runaway work truck. Again, only the driver in the front there as far as we are aware. Again, this is reported as a stolen vehicle. So a grand theft auto suspect behind the wheel here now with a little bit of empty roadway to play with. Still going to be very difficult. This is not the type of vehicle that's going to be very easy to pit by any means. In fact, most likely a pit maneuver probably not an option just from my vantage point, but you can see it is a flatbed truck that's going to be a little bit top heavy in any event, guys. Especially this time of the day in this type of traffic, and certainly if he continues at this rate on surface streets, we're going to start to see a little more of that pedestrian traffic. Now you can see he is just really looking to squeeze through, and we're seeing some really wild lane changes on top of it. And again, he has had no problem running through red lights, running through stop signs earlier on in this chase, and no problem traveling on the wrong side of the road. Even on the freeway when he was running into a traffic jam, he was just riding the shoulder as narrow as it was. And now look at, once again, really coming close to some of this other traffic here. Really could care less about the condition of this vehicle. Could care less about anybody else on the road here. Comes another red light right around traffic here. He's going through it, and he's continuing now eastbound on Whittier Boulevard, where there is stop-and-go traffic at various major intersections here, and it's going to cause a problem. Now you can see LAPD closing in on him. They are not giving this up easily at all. Let's go ahead and count them, Robbie. 1, 2, 3, 4 black and whites pursuing the suspect, and an LAPD helicopter right overhead calling it all. You can see him now continuing to slow down a little bit. We'll go ahead and put up our real-time speed tracker to get a more accurate reading here, and I think it's going to be right around, let's say, 50, 60 miles per hour, so just above the speed limit here on Whittier Boulevard. Well, we were told that it was flat. It looks like it's a little wobbly there, but it's a dually, and it looks to be behaving okay for the most part. So we were told that there might be a flat tire there, and it sure appears that there is some damage, but it doesn't really appear. Look at this. Oncoming lanes of traffic over the median, almost a head-on collision. Another wild move here, just jumping over that median without any regard here, squeezing through both lanes of traffic. This is getting crazy, and LAPD is going to have a serious decision to make here in very short order if this continues. This pursuit just took on a whole different profile. When you start seeing that kind of desperation behind the wheel here, he is in very, very real danger of getting somebody hurt, very seriously hurt. He is now traveling southbound on Washington Boulevard. Somebody crossing the street here, now going the wrong way. Light traffic here, but it just takes one wrong move, and he is going to hurt somebody. Look at this. Let's look up ahead here. Traffic coming right in his direction. Everybody swerving to their right. He is traveling on the inside lane, right over that median, and he's coming up on cross traffic. There comes a collision. Just made contact with cross traffic there and continuing right through Chatfield Avenue, southbound Washington Boulevard. A runaway driver here traveling at a very fast clip and traveling very recklessly through the streets of Whittier now as LAPD is pulling back a little bit. When we get a chance, we'll see just how far back they had to pull back because they were unable to keep up with him through some of those maneuvers. But the airship still overhead following this pursuit as he continues to jump over this median, comes up on a red light, and once again back on the wrong side of the road. That could have been so much worse. Yeah, that was a really close call there. Here comes another close call. I mean, he's going through every single red light, barely slowing down. We're not seeing a lot of hard braking here. He's just running for it, gunning through these intersections, and when he sees any sign of traffic in his way, here comes another patrol car going the opposite direction. He just goes right around it without any regard for the traffic coming towards him or without any regard for anybody else's safety for that matter. He really is running like a madman through the streets here, now getting back on the freeway from the westbound side of Whittier Boulevard. And that's going to put him, we're going to be back on the 605 southbound. 605 southbound now from Washington Boulevard. No, he jumped right over that gore point, over the curb there, and you could see why this vehicle may have run a flat tire there. It's just a kind of a remarkable that it's in as good a shape as it is, the way he's driving it. But it is a heavy-duty work truck. Again, dualies in the back there, and you know, just an overall sturdy vehicle that's capable of this kind of driving, but not for long if he keeps this up. Fortunately, this is the exact place you would prefer to see this kind of driving on the freeway. Really takes the risk, some of the risk off the table when he gets off surface streets. When you see somebody who is just that dangerous and that unpredictable, there's just no better place than the freeway. Although at this time of the day, you can see just how much traffic, how many innocent motorists there are even on the freeway here who are now in danger, and without anybody right behind them, they don't even hear those sirens to let them know that there is a dangerous driver in their vicinity. So hopefully they'll be able to catch up with them here. Maybe CHP will take this over, but LAPD right now trying to get back on the freeway. And my concern is that now that he's on the freeway, you see all this traffic, he's going to start to get a little restless. That's just the pattern that these guys tend to show when they get boxed in here. And if he gets boxed in, he's either going to get off the freeway, but he's right now pretty committed to that left lane. And if he gets boxed in and can't get over, you're going to see him resort to some desperate measures here, and we just don't know what this person is capable of. It just seems unlikely, based on what we're seeing here, it just feels unlikely that he's going to suddenly give up. Certainly that's what we hope he will do. He will just peacefully surrender, but that just doesn't appear to be in the cards for this guy, at least not anytime soon. The good news is there is a patrol car right behind him. We'll go ahead and confirm if that is LAPD. I believe it is LAPD. It is LAPD that has now caught up with him on the freeway here. One patrol car, that primary unit, a secondary supervisor, and then you can see at least one or two others behind him. So we've got that work truck now slowing down with traffic in the HOV lane as he travels southbound on the 605 freeway. Yeah, at one point this was almost a slow-speed pursuit, but it has really escalated since then, and there has been a lot of reckless driving even before we picked it up, where he was traveling on the wrong side of the road, and just in the last few minutes we have seen more of that really reckless behavior, just pure desperation to put any kind of distance between him and those primary units behind him, and it hasn't really worked, which means he is agitated, he's desperate, and he's resorting to even more dangerous measures. Again, the only semblance of good news here is that he is on the freeway where there is no pedestrian traffic, thankfully, because you saw as we were making our way down Whittier Boulevard and then down to Washington Boulevard, there were people crossing the street. There were just so many other factors and variables at play. It just makes it even that much more dangerous for law enforcement to continue the pursuit. But at the rate he's going, they have the luxury now of just kind of waiting him out. If he sticks with that number one lane there, that HOV lane, and stays on the freeway, that'll, at least burn off a little more gas and give them some more options, hopefully. But as we've already discussed, a pit maneuver in this environment is really off the table. A spike strip is going to be very, very difficult to plan with a guy like this, and also have limited effect on a vehicle like this. So right there, you've got two main tactics that are pretty much off the table if and when this guy even begins to slow down. Right now, he's doing about freeway speeds with traffic on the southbound side of the 605 freeway, where traffic is starting to open up a little bit on the southbound side. Northbound traffic, very heavy on the 605. Southbound traffic starting to improve for him, where there is much less volume. We'll see how far south he takes it, or if he decides to get off of the freeway. He does have a decision to make here in just another minute or so. That's going to be the 91 freeway, I believe. A couple less, I believe. You see the primary unit, a secondary unit, and I think it's just those two right now that we're able to catch up on the freeway. So right now, two black and whites behind him as he bypasses the 105 freeway. Passing the 105, next stop is the 91 freeway here on the 605. Well, despite everything that we've seen here, this has now taken on a little bit of a more comforting posture for these officers. They can easily keep up with him on the freeway, and that's most likely what they will do unless they hand this off to California Highway Patrol. Over 100 miles per hour, Colleen. Look at this. Yeah, we've already seen with our own eyes at least one collision. We've seen several close calls. We know that the vehicle has been damaged earlier on in this pursuit. Some questionable condition of the right rear wheel or tires, but the vehicle still traveling fairly nominally, especially considering these speeds. Just in the last couple of minutes, guys, he has now really amped things up over 100 miles per hour on the southbound side of the 605 freeway, and the LAPD has been put in a position where they have really put a little bit of distance between themselves and that vehicle. There's only one unit now following this truck, and even he has pulled back a little bit. It's just become a bit too dangerous and a bit too fast that they've been forced to put this into tracking mode for the time being. This thing is like a missile right now, even on the freeway. In fact, especially on the freeway where he's doing 85 miles per hour at the moment, almost 90 miles per hour. That thing is a moving missile down the freeway at the way he's driving, the way he is behaving behind the wheel here, and so unpredictable. Look at that, really close. Look at that, changing lanes and just squeezing between those two cars. See, it's moves like that that are going to get somebody severely hurt here, even on the freeway where it really is preferential, but even LAPD not comfortable with these conditions, forced to back off a little bit, putting this in tracking mode, but the driving has not changed. The hope when they put it in tracking mode is that it takes the temperature off the driver and takes a little bit of pressure off of his posture, and right now it's just not having that effect. Right now he is driving as dangerously as ever. He's slowing down with traffic here and there, but he is no problem pushing the pedal to the metal. And now California Highway Patrol with their Chargers now or interceptors I should say, getting ready to take over this pursuit. Take a look at that unit right there. That's California Highway Patrol on the right, now crossing over into the HOV lane here momentarily to potentially take over this pursuit as he continues southbound on the 605. Exactly. The minute he saw him in his rearview mirror, he just pushed the pedal to the metal once again, doing over 100 miles per hour in that truck. That is a very heavy vehicle to be traveling at that speed, but yet California Highway Patrol now putting fresh pressure with a fresh pair of eyes on this suspect, closing in on him as he makes his way southbound towards the 405. This is going to be the end of the road for him on the 605, and he's not showing any signs of getting off. In fact, I don't think there are even any more exits to get off at. So now he's going to either go north or south on the 405 freeway. And while he's had the luxury of light traffic on the 605, I don't have to tell you, Mark and Colleen, traffic on the 405 here in, what is it going to be, at Seal Beach, the Seal Beach area, is not going to be very friendly for him. And so we'll see if he sticks with the freeway or decides to get off. But look at the way he's already getting over to the right side here. But let's see what he decides to do here. But just another second ago, you saw that another close call. That's right, and that goes right to Colleen's point, where at the very least, there's the saving grace of law enforcement behind him, and those lights and sirens really provide a public service. Aside from trying to stop this crazy person behind the wheel here, those lights and sirens are alerting everybody that there is police activity coming their way, and so it's important to have that tool, especially when there are so many innocent motorists in the vicinity like there are right here in the middle of rush hour, coming up on rush hour at least, here on the 605. We will see. It looks like he is taking the southbound side. Well, too early to say. I think he's going to take the south. No? Hugging the right there. That right lane may put him on the northbound side. I'm not exactly sure. Let's see where this transition takes him. He's getting off, I think, off of the southbound side and onto the 405 north. Westbound 22 freeway. So this is going to put him on the 22, westbound 22, and then heading towards Long Beach. Exactly right. It sure is. Right here. In fact, it's going to end right here. And as I look off the nose here, we are back on city streets where traffic is going to start to increase. Volume is increasing already as he approaches a red light. And now we're going to start to look at this. He's going to start losing control of the vehicle. A little bit of fishtailing as he tried to navigate this little traffic jam here at a red light over the median. Now going the wrong way once again. Going the wrong way on Surface Street once again, around all of that traffic, swerving all the way to the right shoulder here, and he's really having trouble dealing with this vehicle now. If he continues at these speeds, just hit the wall, hitting the wall, crashing into other vehicles. He made contact there with a work truck, a box truck. It looked like he touched it and is already starting to lose part of that flatbed. Look at this, over the curb, over the median, and just, I mean, this for what? Look at this, crashing into vehicles. 1, 2, 3 innocent motorists, just dragging them along through the intersection at Bellflower Boulevard, passing through Bellflower on 7th Street, going the wrong way again. He has no regard for any of this oncoming traffic, trying to get around and crashing into everybody and everything in his way. Still not slowing down. Lost his tire, Colleen. He's just lost that front left tire. He's now running on the rim here. Heavy damage on that front of that vehicle, with very, very heavy damage on the front end of that vehicle, and that tire is pretty much gone. So at least the front left tire. Oh no. It's not only is it not going to hold, look at this, he's squeezing through everybody coming in his direction. They're all swerving on either side of him. He's going to get into another head-on collision here. There it is, head-on collision into an SUV. We are seeing dozens of vehicles damaged in this pursuit, and that was probably one of the most serious right there. Just ran right into the front of that SUV. CHP has given this up. They have now created distance. They are now putting this back in tracking mode for the time being. They have pulled back, and you can see he is still straddling the double yellow lines, crashing into another vehicle. That flatbed is made of steel that is just doing tremendous damage with very little damage to the vehicle other than the front end damage that we're already seeing there. But what we were saying, Mark, is that front left, oh no, there it is! There it is! Two vehicles into cross traffic, a major collision into the front of a paint store at the strip mall at 7th Street and Terminal Avenue, ramming right through those two vehicles, the driver stepping out of the vehicle and now walking away from the crash scene. That driver now walking away from the crash scene, two major crashes there, and now he's walking up the sidewalk. CHP is close by, the Sheriff's Department is close by. Long Beach police are likely on their way over here, and hopefully somebody will be able to get this person off of the sidewalk. Or right now, there are numerous casualties here. Look at the condition of that vehicle. We're going to try and keep an eye on the suspect and also those vehicles as well. We're going to stick with the driver here as he walks up the block here around the strip mall off of 7th Street onto Miramar Avenue. We know that law enforcement is watching our feed right now. We want to stick with the driver as he continues this stroll away from the crash scene. It ended about as badly as we were thinking it might. There were dozens of crashes there at the very end of this pursuit. He went right through all of that traffic, ramming into everybody in his way, right through red lights, into cross traffic, eventually losing control of the vehicle because of that tire. He was unable to retain control of that vehicle, Mark, just like we were talking about. And he went right into the front of that strip mall. This is Miramar Avenue off of 7th Street in East Long Beach, and there he is. I think that's going to be Long Beach Police, maybe not. No, it's LAPD. LAPD taking the suspect down. We're going to come around. Let's come around the tree. And it looks like LAPD has taken this suspect down to the ground on the sidewalk there at Miramar Avenue, just off of 7th Street. numerous officers, as we come around this tree, now taking that suspect into custody. Absolutely. He's still putting up a struggle. He's still putting up a struggle. They're trying to get this guy into handcuffs. He is fighting a bit. Can't see what's happening underneath that tackle there, but you can see that they are having a little bit of a hard time as this suspect appears to be resisting slightly here. Very difficult to tell from this angle, but it's all happening right here along Miramar Avenue off of 7th Street here in East Long Beach. We're going to stick with this shot momentarily. We will go back to the crash scene where it did appear at least one of those vehicles, as you mentioned, Colleen, was very heavily damaged, especially the front seats. The driver and passenger seat appeared to be smashed in, and that was just a really high-speed crash here. Looks like they've got this situation under control. Let's take it over to the intersection. Let's take it. Yeah. Yeah. Most likely, I mean, we didn't see exactly what happened there. He might just be out of breath. I do want to take a peek here on the other side of the strip mall, right there. I want to see that white SUV on the right. That's the van that was heavily impacted there, and then there was a small compact SUV. It looks like LAPD is right there talking to somebody inside the vehicle. There appears to be a patient inside of that vehicle. They're waiting for an ambulance, waiting for the fire department to arrive here. They don't want to move anybody, especially anybody who's critically injured. And right now, it does appear that there are serious injuries here at the end of this crash at 7th Street and Terminal Avenue. There's the van. It came within feet of a food stand right there on the curb. Guys, that car took a really serious hit. Yeah, it looks like a RAV4. I think you're right about that, Mark. It took a very serious hit, and we're about to see. Yeah, we'll have a. I don't think so. I mean, you know, when you're traveling through a green light, the last thing in the world you would expect is somebody barreling through the red light there. You can see the airbags have been deployed. We will see if they have any trouble accessing the seats. It may even require on the passenger side some more extensive equipment. We'll see here. They're going to pop that airbag here and access the driver. It does look like the police are talking to a possible passenger, so there may be more than one person inside that vehicle. Certainly there could be a lot more. Who knows? It's a small compact SUV with the potential of at least 3 or 4 or 5 people in there. So you just never know exactly how many people. You know, we just don't want to even speculate at this point until we get a better idea. Exactly. Not in his right mind, to say the least, and you've got to wonder, A, was he under the influence, and B, what other crimes has he committed? Because I would almost, I'd be willing to bet that stolen vehicle likely was not his first rodeo. Did not appear to be armed. He just walked away very casually, as if nothing ever happened. And it really just speaks to the inexplicable mental state of a person like that after the joyride that he just took and all of the lives that he has affected, not just threatened, but literally, as you can see here. Lives can change forever during a pursuit like that and a crash ending like that, where there were just one. You just saw him crashing into one after another in the final moments of that pursuit, just rushing through every red light without any braking into oncoming lanes of traffic, numerous head-on collisions there, finally ending in a major one here at the intersection of Termino and 7th Street. Before he just basically lost control of the vehicle, jumped the curb, and I can't get over the fact that there is a food stand just a few feet away that could have been impacted. Yeah, I think we can hope it's just the driver. It doesn't look like there's anybody on the passenger side, as you mentioned. It does appear that they are communicating with that person. It appeared that the police officer was communicating originally on the passenger side as well, probably unable to talk to the driver through the airbag, so they were talking through the passenger side. You can see the passenger side was severely crushed, so thank goodness there was no passenger in that passenger seat, and that airbag may have very well saved that driver's life for all we know. And you can see they are now tending to that person, but it does appear that they are able to communicate, at least based on the body language that I'm observing. We don't know for sure, but it does appear that there's actually some movement coming from that windshield. An elderly man behind the wheel there, now being placed on a stretcher, very gingerly helping him out of the vehicle. He seems to be moving. He almost seems to be upright with the assistance of those firefighters, and he is now safely on that stretcher with a neck brace around his neck. And we can only hope that there are no life-threatening injuries here, but obviously, considering the patient, you have to treat him extra careful here as they place him on a stretcher, and eventually he will be rushed to probably Long Beach Medical Center, I would imagine here, and hopefully we'll have an updated condition. But it certainly appears as though he is conscious and alert, moving his right arm to his face there, and we could just pray that he'll be okay. Let's go ahead as we get this this transport here. Once he's in the ambulance, we'll want to peek over at the other van to see the condition of that vehicle. There were more patients that stepped out of that vehicle at the end of this pursuit. You can see much less damage, some front-end damage to that van. We saw two vehicles at this particular intersection. We could actually trace 7th Street back a little bit because we know there are more crashes. People pulled over there, right there, all those cars there. I think all those people were impacted. Well, those might be parked cars. Maybe it was a little further back. I know we saw a handful of crashes here on 7th Street. Might be a little bit further back here. I'm not sure where they may have moved those vehicles. They've probably already cleared 7th, so they may be off the side. They didn't appear to be major crashes. Hopefully no injuries there. It certainly appears that the worst of it was suffered by that elderly gentleman in that small SUV, and he will be taken to the hospital. But if that's the worst of it, we can thank our lucky stars that this did not end in even more calamity, because this had the potential for some very, very life-threatening injuries. Suspect still on the ground there? He's still on the ground. LAPD still tending to that suspect on the ground. They are now calling for an ambulance, likely, to treat this suspect. Sorry, go ahead. Copy that. Copy that. So now we are back on Miramar Avenue here, where LAPD is tending to that suspect. As I mentioned, they appear to be waiting for paramedics to check out the suspect, who was hurt at the end of this pursuit, potentially, obviously suffering from some kind of mental illness. You can see a whole boatload of black and whites there at the arrest scene. 7th Street and Terminal Avenue, the end of this pursuit, where this suspect crashed the vehicle and ended up losing control. The truck ending up into the front of a strip mall, just feet away from a food stand. There you see the Sherman-Williams paint shop there, where it does not appear there were any casualties at that location. There's the food stand, that van coming to rest right next to the food stand, and they are now going to start locking down this intersection and shutting down traffic here in Long Beach, here at Terminal and 7th, as they begin to get the situation under control. But what could have been such a much worse situation had this ended any differently. But it was a violent crash that was really almost inevitable, the way this suspect was driving and ramming into vehicles down the final stretch of this wild and reckless police chase. Go ahead. Guys, can you hear me? I've got you, JJ, go ahead. Copy that. Thank you. We are technically, I just want to get this confirmed. Give me a second. We're going to call this Belmont Heights. Belmont Heights. Belmont Heights in Long Beach. Let's go a little closer. Just a little closer to the scene. up at speeds upwards of 100 miles per hour on the freeway and only a little bit slower on surface streets before he started colliding into other vehicles, running through every single red light that he came upon with hardly any braking. That vehicle was starting to give up on him. It was a very, very heavy-duty work truck traveling at a high rate of speed. He had some flat tires, and the truck started really misbehaving on him, and that's when he started losing control as he continued driving through these red lights, ramming into more vehicles. This whole thing ended with an insane crash at 7th Street and Termino Avenue here, where an elderly gentleman was pulled from the wreckage of that SUV right there as we come back out live at the center of your screen. He was taken to the hospital just moments ago. Another van at the end of this crash veered onto the curb there. Patients in that vehicle being checked out as well. That van coming within feet of a food stand here at the intersection of 7th Street and Termino Avenue, and then the driver crashing into the front of a strip mall at a Sherman-Williams paint shop right there, where there were no casualties, but the driver just casually stepped out of the vehicle, which was basically experiencing several flat tires, and then just walked away from the crash scene there before being taken into custody along Miramar and 7th. Right there, you can see LAPD and the fire department checking the suspect out before he's headed off to jail. Guys, back to you. I mean, it really was. I mean, he kind of, by the time he got to the paint store, he wasn't traveling terribly fast, but thankfully it did manage to stop him before going through those double doors there. Easily could have been more injuries inside that paint store had he not stopped right where he did. The only option was the one that they took, and in the final moments of this pursuit, they did in fact give up the pursuit. In fact, when he crashed through here, I believe they had already placed this into tracking mode. So they had determined that it was too dangerous, but pulling off and ending the pursuit did not end the reckless driving, and so he continued blowing through every single red light, despite the fact that he wasn't even being vehicles that we counted in the final moments of this chase. It was hard to see, but he definitely appeared to be resisting in the early stages there. It took about at least a half a dozen LAPD units, officers I should say, to keep him restrained on the ground, on the sidewalk, before they were able to let up on him. And not to, I mean, he's obviously suffered some physical injuries, to say nothing of his mental ailments that led him into this position today. Again, this is a grand theft auto suspect behind the wheel of a stolen work truck, casually walking away from the crash scene as if nothing ever happened in the middle of this, virtually rush hour traffic. Just an unbelievable chase if you take into consideration all of the variables. We were hoping it would stay on the freeway, but when he got off of the 605 freeway, he ended up on the 22, which ends in surface streets. And at that point, we were back on surface streets where there were just so many red lights and pedestrians. It was almost hard to see this pursuit ending any other way. Yeah, most of the collisions did appear to be relatively minor. It wasn't until the very end where he just rammed through cross traffic between that small SUV and that larger white van. It was a heart-pounding moment because you just knew that people were going to get hurt prior to the crash, and certainly you can see the result here in Belmont Heights. Yeah, he was threading the needle there at the very end, kind of squeezing between a wall and a bunch of traffic that was sitting still. Again, they were mostly minor collisions, but by our estimate up here in Air 7, he crashed into at least a dozen vehicles by my count, and maybe even more than that. Again, most of them appeared to be minor. Lots of property damage, though. Lots of paperwork here. But again, the big story here is an elderly gentleman inside of that white SUV right there that really took the brunt of the impact. Thankfully, he was traveling in the northbound direction. His passenger side took the big hit there. The driver's side somewhat protected by that airbag, which very well might have saved that elderly man's life. Copy.